Hey everybody, how's it going out there in Hobbyland today? Two-part, I think it's going to be in two parts, at least we're going to try to do it that way, on the model car garage piano hinges, which are used for a lot of different purposes, but I use them mostly on my model truck doors and also on like toolboxes and battery box lids and things like that. So there's been a lot of requests on doing this. I'm going to do the first part of the video, or actually the first video is going to be on what comes in the kit from Model Car Garage, what I do to prepare the pieces and get them ready to be assembled and bent and all that happy stuff. So the first video won't be real long, which will be this one here. And the video where I actually start assembling the hinges probably will get a little time consuming. It takes roughly about a half an hour per side for me to do the hinges on my builds. And the hinge that I'm going to be doing on the video will be the same hinge that will be used on Ben Wicker's 352 Peterbilt cab that I'm painting. The one where we're changing the hinge design on it. So I'm going to pan the camera down here. I'll show you the things we're going to be working with and a few do's and don'ts. And that'll be the first video, and then we will come back on the second video and start bending the hinges and getting them ready to be assembled. So here we go. Okay. What we have laying here is, this is the actual Model Car Garage hinge as it comes on the photo etched fret from Model Car Garage. Now, while my camera is cooperating, right at the very top of that hinge, you will notice there is a black line on the first and the second tooth. And also, since it's still cooperating, you can see a black line on the bottom two teeth on that hinge. Okay, remember that, because that is a reference mark that I'm going to explain here in a minute. So, the next thing we're going to talk about is the hinge wire that comes in the Model Car Garage piano hinge set. Pretty much when you get it, it kind of looks like, sort of like this mess right here. And you know, I have assembled a few smaller hinges with this wire. Now, a measurement on this wire, just to let you know, is 0.011. It's pretty small. But as you can see, it's also very flexible, and it doesn't really keep its shape. Now, there is a way to go in and straighten this wire out, and I'll show that procedure here very quickly. For anybody that may want to use this wire, or attempt to use it, I actually do not recommend this wire, but I will show you a trick on how to straighten it out. Let me find a couple of things here. First thing we're going to need is our clippers, and then we're going to need a piece of, let's see if I can find the right size here. I came prepared for this video, didn't I? I don't even have the right size piece of plastic here with me. Let's see. We're going to use that right there. That's going to work. We got some Plastruck, I think this is about 40, yeah, this is about 40 thousandths thick. So you don't want something real thin for your piece of plastic for this. The thicker the better, actually. So what we're going to do, we're going to lay this over to the side. And to actually straighten out a piece of this, now, you know, a lot of people say, oh, just run this between your fingers and it'll straighten out. It actually doesn't. It creates like a rainbow, and it still has little ups and downs in it. So what I like to do is come in and just clip the very end off of this. And then, like, say I'm doing a battery box. I only need about 3/4 of an inch to maybe an inch, something like that. So I'll go ahead and clip off a little bit more than what I need. And what I'm left with is this small piece of wire here. And I try to straighten that out about the best that I can with my fingers. And I have a piece of plastic laid down here that we're going to be doing the tutorial on. And then what I do at that point is I will take this other piece of plastic and I will lay on top of that. And you just want to slide, just kind of roll the plastic back and forth. And you can hear the sound it's making there. And then what you're left with, and you have to be careful with it at this point because you don't want to make it not straight again. You have a pretty straight piece of 0.011 wire. The only problem is if you just barely touch this stuff, you got a bend in it. That's all it takes to bend it. I mean, it's very, very fragile stuff to use. If you're doing a smaller hinge, it will work good on that, but there's a better way to do it that I found, and what that is K&S Metals makes a 0.014 brass wire that is solid. And it, like I say, this is 0.011 and this is 0.014. So it's very close, a little bigger. The good thing about this is it keeps its shape. It stays pretty straight. This one here's got a little bit of a bow in it, but for what we're doing, that's going to be fine because once we cut off the piece that we need and run it down through our hinge, it's going to be good to go. So I do recommend getting some K&S solid brass wire in 0.014. So that's what we're going to be using for our hinge pin. And a couple other things that you're going to need is your hobby knife with a sharp, brand new number 11 blade in it, a straight edge. This happens to be a 18-inch straight edge. You can use a 12, you can use a 10, just as long as it's a steel straight edge, and it has markings on it, so you can do checking some measurements and stuff like that. Now, the next step that we're going to do before we do anything as far as cutting the photo etch hinges off of this fret, what we want to do is some calculation. Now, I've already done all the calculations, and I can tell you that you can go on to Google and punch in radius to circumference, or actually diameter to circumference, and it will bring up a calculator that makes it a lot easier. I do my measurements, I used to do all my measurements just by, sitting down and figuring out, pies and all kinds of different formulas for doing this. But what we have is this 0.014 wire. When you want to know the circumference of it, which if you draw a line right here and trace it all the way around and come back to that line, that is the circumference of this piece of wire. Now, when you do the conversion, it comes out to roughly 0.040. So it pretty much comes out to this thickness of plastic right here. That's the circumference of this wire. And the reason why we want to know that is because each one of these little fingers that's on this fret or on the hinge, you're going to want to wrap around this wire. What you don't want is where the finger wraps around and then it's too long and you have to overlap it back onto your hinge. It creates some doors that don't close very well, and the hinge is not as strong as what it should be. So, what I do at that point is I will measure from this edge of the hinge, which would be right at the bottom of the finger. You want to measure from there over. And you want to get at least 40 thousandths of an inch. And that's all you need. And you want to do the same thing on this side. Once you find that reference line, you can put a mark, and I use a very sharp pencil. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect. Pretty much what's going to happen on your model car garage hinges is you're going to put a line right in the center, centered in between this piece here and this piece here, and that's the center line. It gives you roughly 40 to 42 is the measurement on it. What we're going to do at that point, once you have that line marked onto your hinges, you want to take your sharp number 11 blade You want to keep a good pressure down on your hinge and make sure that it doesn't move. And you're basically just going to come in and keep working the blade through the hinges, and you'll see that I just kicked off some little pieces of the hinge here. Don't try to do this in one cut because you will screw the hinges up, so don't do that. Just slowly work down through it. That number 11 blade will cut through it. And you want to make sure you get all of them without bending the hinge up. That's why I use a piece of plastic like this to cut on. You can also use a mirror or a piece of glass. Works out very well. Okay, now we have that cut. And let me make sure we have all the little teeth out. Yes, we do. And as you can see, they're right there on the board. That's all the extra off of the teeth that we do not need for what we're trying to design here. And I'll hold it up and let you get a view of what we've done. That is what the hinge looks like now. You can see the little fingers are roughly about 0.040 in that neighborhood. And at that point, you can go ahead and take your number 11 blade and come in and cut the little fret attachment points loose from your hinge. And we've got those three cut. So we're going to slide that hinge out of here, set it over to the side, and then we're going to go back in and we're going to cut this one loose here. Okay, we have that one cut loose, and then you'll end up with this little piece of photo etched metal left over. Don't throw this away. This can come in handy for super detailing. If you want to make like a band clamp, or you want something that's a flat piece of metal that's very thin as far as thickness and width. This comes in pretty handy for it. All you have to do is come back in, trim off the rest of the attachment points there, and you've got a nice straight piece to use for something. You could use it for fuel tank straps. You could use it for breather straps, anything like that. So, whenever you have these, and that goes for like any photo etch. If you have just a thin outline around your photo etch parts, keep that. Don't throw it away. Put that over in your detail parts drawer. In fact, that's what I'm going to do with that piece right now. I'm going to put it back in my piano hinge drawer there. Okay. Now, the next thing that you're going to want to do is you need to figure out how long your hinge needs to be. And what I'm going to do, these are actually Ben's doors that we took off of the cab. He actually is sending me another set, but I'm going to do the measurements off of this, and we'll be good to go. So what you want to check is you want to figure out, how much of the hinge needs to go along the face of this door. And I'll turn everything around here so I can work with it a little bit. Let me get it flipped over here. There we go. Now I got it going the right direction. So what I'm going to do with that is basically just going to line the bottom edge of the hinge up with the door. And we're going to come up to this point right here. And we're going to make a score mark across that just for a reference. Now, like I say, I know my camera's not going to zoom in on this stuff, so, any of you guys that want to learn how to do the model car garage hinges, definitely get a set of them in. Have them at your workbench when you get ready to, go back through this video. And I just snipped that with my snippers. They make photo etch cutters that I actually have over here in the drawer, but I didn't grab them right now, so these work just as well for most of this kind of stuff. Okay, so what we have there is the length of our hinge, and then what we want to do now is see if the other section of that hinge is long enough. If it is, we'll go ahead and use that. And then this one here, we've already got it cut down to work with this brass pin. So we can put this in the parts drawer or in the photo etch drawer, and we can use it for the next hinge that we want to do, which in this case would be Ben's other door. So I'm just going to set that over to the side now so it doesn't get screwed up. I'm actually going to put it in with the piano hinge stuff. Okay, now the next thing that you want to do is realize that these fingers have to interlock. So you're going to have a finger on the bottom on the left side, and then on the right side hinge, you're going to have, it'll be finger number 2. Finger number 3 is on the left side. Finger number 4 is on the right side. So you want to kind of line that up and just check it. Just like that. Just kind of intertwine them there together, and you want to cut off the hinge at the same point. So I'm going to put a reference mark on that one. And then I'm going to come in and snip that little piece off on the reference mark. Okay, that's out. So now we have a left and right piece of hinge. So now that we have a left and right piece of hinge, what you're going to notice here is you're going to have a little bit of a tail sticking below the bottom part of this hinge, or the bottom part of this finger, and above this finger here. What I like to do is come in and get rid of that little tail so that it creates a right angle at the end of both of your hinges. So we're going to get rid of that little tail. That's gone now. And we're going to turn it over, and we're going to do the same thing on the top. Get rid of the little tail. And what we have now is a hinge setup that will slide together, and it's the right length. Okay, that's what we have up to that point. That's pretty much where I'm going to cut the video off, because the next steps are all in forming the video, or forming the hinge, and putting this wire in, and bending the fingers over, and intertwining them together. So I'm going to let you go on this video today. I'll go ahead and start the next part here very soon. Should be up within the next couple hours or so. So what we have is, you have your 2 parts of your hinge here. We're ready to go ahead and get the brass wire put into place, bend the fingers over, intertwine the 2 pieces, and we're going to be good to go. So when we come back on the second video, we'll be doing my steps to hold these into place while you're putting the brass wire in. Show you how to bend everything over and put it together. So if you have any questions or concerns on this video, just leave me a comment, and I'll be more than glad to get back to you. And like always, I thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.